Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. Today we're going to be talking about an interesting show, to say the least. I first heard about it through an ad that I saw a lot on this old cat-dog VHS I had when I was growing up.
What do you get when a kid overfeeds his pet Newt?
Everyone knows that.
Oh, I'm great at guessing.
You get one super-sized smart alecky salamander.
Ha-ha, you're right!
He's Ned's Newt, and now you can get him on video.
So my curiosity was piqued, and after a little bit of digging, I was surprised to find out that not a lot of people have talked about this show. So let's do just that. Created by regular in the animation industry, Andy Knight, this is yet another Canadian animated series. However, this one is a first since it was a Canadian-German co-production between Canadian studios Nelvana, Studio B, and the now defunct German studio TV Loonland AG, or TMO Film GmbH, as they were called at the time. We'll get a little bit more into the very peculiar airing schedule of this show later on in this video, but for now, let's start with the first episode. More specifically, let's start with this earworm of a theme song. Okay, first of all, don't lie. Even if you weren't into the show or have never heard of it before, the theme song really slaps. That's a genuinely catchy 90s intro for a cartoon. Secondly, you gotta love how this show's opening theme explains the entire backstory before jumping into the first episode, where they basically just go to show you most of what you already saw in the intro. But alright, from there, let's take a fair and honest look at the first episode. This is Ned's Newt. Whoa! Whoa! Okay, well, you might want to just slow your roll a little bit. Hi, hello, audience member here. I am watching the first episode of this show, right? This is our title character, Ned, played by Tracy Moore, who some of you might remember as the original Princess Toadstool. Ned is an average young boy who dreams of having an awesome pet. We're also introduced to his parents, his dad, who is very lackadaisical and keeps his nose in his newspaper, his mom, who works in fragrances, has a thick Midwest accent, and they're both recurring characters throughout the show.
Hey, Dad, can I have my allowance? Great! Now I can go buy my pet elephant.
That's nice. Well, have fun.
So the plot of the first episode plays out like the theme song said. He heads to a pet store owned by this old German guy, and it seems that most of the truly exotic pets are way out of Ned's budget. But the only thing he can afford is a little blue newt in a fishbowl.
What the heck, I like you. $1.65 it is.
Cool! I'll take it.
If things seem a little bit fast-paced based on this first episode alone, don't worry, we'll talk a little bit about the show's pacing later on in this video. After noticing the newt barely does anything, he takes it back to the store, and the owner gives him a can of Zippo brand newt food. At first, it seems to not do much, but once the newt gets some more of the canned food in his system, he grows about 6 feet tall and turns into...
Hey, you! Turn that down. I'll wake my parents.
Excellent!
Wilma! Hi, Betty.
Reminds me of the heady days of Sputnik.
I'd buy that for $1.
a knockoff of the genie from Aladdin. Yeah, this should be pretty apparent once this aspect of the show finally appears. The newt transforms into a wacky, fast-talking magical sidekick. Very similar to Beetlejuice, the Genie, The Mask, Drop Dead Fred. Not only does he do the topical impressions, but he can also morph his physical form and bend the laws of physics. As all newts do when you overfeed them, clearly. After a good 7 minutes of this, conflict slowly creeps in as the newt, who's named Newton and played by comedian Harlan Williams, accidentally breaks the family juicer. So you know when the parents come down and see that, Ned's gonna be in a heap of trouble. But gosh dang it, he can't get rid of the newt just yet because those two rascals are just having a grand old time.
Wow! You're even better than an elephant.
Better than a... An elephant. Shucks. I was hoping to be as good as a dog. Or maybe a ferret. But an elephant.
So they recreate the madcap shenanigans we saw in the intro sequence, and this first episode ends with Ned's parents waking up and discovering the mess downstairs. But before Ned can tell them about his new friend...
I didn't do all this. It was...
Yeah, get ready to see more of this One Froggy Evening style ending for each episode. Most episodes of this show end with Ned getting blamed for a lot of Newton's antics. And while it seems like Ned was going to get off scot-free because his dad hated the juicer and is glad to hear that it's broken, this is the last joke we get in the episode.
That hurricane also broke your best bowling trophy.
Alright, that was certainly crazy. I mean, it explained the general plot of the show and showed us how the two main characters met. I would say that it did that fairly well. But let's see how the rest of the show plays out. How does the rest of the series from here stack up? Like many shows of this type, each episode follows a very basic formula. Ned has some kind of predicament going on in his day-to-day life. Newton tries to offer assistance in his own special kind of way. Something ends up going terribly wrong. Ned either comes out on top or ends up getting screwed, usually taking the blame for his new friend's mistakes if something ends up going wrong at the last second. All the while, Newton does his stellar celebrity impressions and fourth wall breaks, some of which I'm willing to bet were ad-libs they just left in.
You want me to make this rusty a playground offer he can't refuse? Excuse me, I got some cotton in my cheeks. You are suffering from a lachrymose phonetic despondency. Or as we psychiatrists say, you're a real grumpy gum-gum. You know how to dance, don't you? You just put your legs together and go like this. We gotta raise questionable money in the East and funnel it to our national committee through a phony bank account.
We'll talk about this a little bit later when we get to the cast of the show, but let's just say that Harlan Williams' portrayal of the character of Newton seems to be one of the make-or-break things with this series, depending on who you ask. One of the episodes I wanted to highlight is this one where Newton begins acting stranger than usual, and he begins lusting after every woman and soon every object in sight. I wanted to bring it up simply because it's very clear they took influence from a Three Stooges short for this one. Aside from the zany Newt antics, we also get Ned's school peers, like his nerdy friend Dougal, which, what an unfortunate name. Ned's rival, the resident rich asshole kid Rusty, and the girl across the street, Linda, who Ned has a crush on.
Hi, Ned.
Surprisingly, this plays into a lot more episodes than you'd think. From Ned wanting to become the school spring king so he can dance with her, Ned having Newton sell things so he can make enough money to take her to the circus, and even one where Newton throws a boulder through her window so she'll have to notice Ned.
Ned Flemkin. Did you do this? It wasn't me, it was... It's the biggest, filthiest rock anyone's ever given me. Huh? After breakfast, you want to walk with me to school?
Okay, so we've talked about the characters and the general plot of the show, so now let's get to some of the stuff that I mentioned earlier. First of all, let's talk about the pacing. It might be a little hard to convey with abridged clips, but this show is incredibly fast-paced. It's always moving, things never drag, and episodes never feel long or overstay their welcome. Almost to the point where you want to throw a bottle of Ritalin at the TV screen. The first episode is a perfect case of this, as most of the plot blows by very fast, and once you get to Newton transforming, a lot of the plot itself just slows down to show off Harlan Williams doing impressions. And hey, I'm not even saying this is a terribly bad thing. This is a show from the tail end of the 90s, the same decade that gave us Animaniacs, Ren and Stimpy, and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. So I'm not just trying to hate on the fast pacing or the cartoony antics, I'm just saying, be ready for it, because this show does not ease you into it at all. Not even in the later episodes. This carries over into the animation. It is pretty good, especially compared to the last Canadian animated show we looked at for a MediaWiz video. I think the animation is smooth enough and progressively gets better as the seasons went on. The designs are stylized and give the show its own personality. I like a lot of the background art that's in this show, not gonna lie. Though, and maybe this is just me, it does feel like this resembles a lot of shows that would come out after it. Ned himself looks like number 1 from Kids Next Door. A lot of the supporting characters resemble background characters designed by Steven Silvers, and this is the biggest deep cut of them all. The animation itself reminds me of that shortly lived Disney kids show, Stanley. So like I usually do when it comes to talking about shows like this that are typically glossed over, I must ask and answer the question, how long did this show last? It went for 3 seasons, which is honestly more than I was expecting. And considering some of the other shows I've talked about on MediaWiz, I'm starting to think that 3 seasons is the bare minimum for some shows. And most of the time, it's kind of heartbreaking when you find out a show you really like went for 3 seasons. As for one of the biggest detriments with this show, it never had a chance in any time slot that it was in. The show was aired on Fox Kids around the same time ABC had its mega hit Doug on one Saturday morning. It was later moved to Saturday mornings, then weekday mornings from Tuesday to Thursday. It also bounced around from networks like crazy, so it had a real uphill battle maintaining a time slot and growing a proper audience there. It got 9 episodes aired on Teletoon. Long after the show was over, reruns were aired on the now defunct Hubo network. However, the show did manage to score some home video releases. There were about 3 VHS releases when the show was still going, and jump forward to now, and it seems the show has actually landed on various streaming platforms. The whole show is available on YouTube, as well as Pluto TV and Tubi, because of course it's on Tubi. Everything is on Tubi at this point. Lastly, I wanted to bring up the voice cast because it had one of the biggest changes in the show's run. As for the writing and animation, it mostly stayed the same quality, but the biggest change came in the last season, specifically the last 3 episodes. For whatever reason, Harlan Williams was swapped out with Canadian voice actor Ron Pardo. I personally don't think it's a major notice. Pardo does a decent enough job sounding like him.
And now I'm this big. Nettie, my sole purpose in life is to amuse you.
It's very technical. You take the money lying all over the floor and put it in nice, neat piles. And when you leave at night, you're frisked for bags full of loonies.
That being said, Harlan Williams is probably the biggest name the series ever got, with the rest being a bunch of regular Canadian voice actors. Personally, I think the voice cast did a pretty good job with their roles, and I especially liked the chemistry between the 2 main characters. Tracy Moore does a pretty good job doing a little boy voice for Ned, and, depending on who you are, I think Williams does a fine enough job playing a wacky, over-the-top character like Newton. Is he a great impressionist? Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Is he a great suit for a Robin Williams or Jim Carrey-style character? He wouldn't be my first choice, but I always liked Harlan Williams' stand-up and film appearances, so while Newton can border on being annoying depending on the episode, I think he did a fine enough job as the character. So overall, would I recommend people checking out Ned's Newt? Meh. Sure, why not? I mean, it's not a perfect show or anything, but it's harmless. Just know this show's very extra going into it. If you're not interested in incredibly hyper shows from the 90s, then avoid it at all costs. Compared to other bombs from around that time, this show's biggest crime is just being a little annoying every once in a while. But from what I've seen, when the show was charming, it did a fine enough job. The characters were funny enough, the dialogue had some good jokes in there, the designs were stylized and unique, the animation was pretty smooth, and I think the show went on for about as long as it needed to. Is it a great show? Nah, not really. But was I pleasantly surprised with a lot of the episodes that I managed to see for this review? I would say so. And besides, even if you're not really big on the show itself, I think we can all agree on one thing. The theme song still slaps. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Until next time, I'm the MediaWiz, because one art form wasn't enough.
There once was a boy who wanted a pet. When he got to the store, a Newt was all he could get. He brought it home, but to his surprise, the Newt just laid there, he was barely alive. The pet store owner knew what to do. He gave the boy a can of simple Newt food. Ned's Newt, he's so humongous. Ned's Newt, how very precocious. Ned's Newt, he's where the fun is, yeah.
Loon in a one-on-one battle to the death with the mighty Godzilla?
Nope.
Does it do any tricks?
Nope.
Will it give me a rash?
Well, that depends where you keep it.